All right, we are going to get started. We have a couple of people in our webinar today, and we expect more people to join us. This will be recorded, and so people can view on their own at any time, but let us begin with introduction. So I'm going to ask the panelists to show their lovely faces so we can do some quick introductions. But my name is Nikisa Straker, and I am the Senior Assistant Dean for Residential Life and First Year Students, or more affectionately, the Dean of First Year Students. And I oversee the First Year Experience Office and work with many of the folks on this screen right now and all of you as first year students as you transition into the college and as you are transitioning in a couple of months to the houses. So I will start with some introductions, and I'll start with Ben.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. My name is Ben. I graduated from the college in 2020. I lived in Leverett House, and I was on the House Committee. I was HOCO chair, so house life was a big part of my undergrad experience. I'm now a proctor, and I live with students in Hollis South.
Right. Karina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karina Mainavelli. I'm the Director of Housing for the college. It is my office that runs the housing lottery, so I'm really excited to be here with you and to tell you all about it.
Amy.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amy Valeri. I'm the Kirkland House Administrator. So I'm the one who's in charge of doing all the housing assignments and various things over the summer. So you'll be hearing a lot from me if you are assigned to Kirkland House.
Matthew.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew. I'm a junior in Elliott, studying applied math and economics. And I'm a path for Penny 2.
Lulu.
Hi everyone, I'm Lulu. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a sophomore in Cabot House studying environmental science and public policy, and I'm a path for the best entryway Green 01.
And Helen.
Hi everyone, my name is Helen. I'm also a junior in Elliott House studying history and science, and I'm a path in Thayer 3, and I now serve as HOCO chair for Elliott HOCO.
All right. And while Brian, you are behind the scenes, I think it's still great for you to introduce yourself so people know who you are.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, my camera's not on. I'm Brian Boughton. I'm the Assistant Director of Housing, and I'm trying to make sure the webinar doesn't break while we are having it.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very much appreciated. So today we're going to go over the housing process. Karina is going to walk through a lovely presentation, and then we're going to hear from Ben as a proctor to share a little bit about his experience and how he works with first year students. And then we will have our PAFs, peer advising fellows, Lulu, Helen, and Matthew share a little bit about the lottery from their experience. And then we are here to answer all questions that you have. Like I said, this will be recorded. So if you have friends who have not been able to come to this, there will be opportunities for them to review it on our website. All first year students will also participate in entryway meetings with your proctor and PAF to talk about the lottery process. So this is not the only opportunity for questions, but we would appreciate as many questions as you have. Please feel free to use the Q&A function, and we will answer some questions live, or we might answer some questions as we're typing. So I'm going to turn it over to Karina, and Karina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nikisa. I appreciate it. All right, so let's jump right on in. So what is the purpose of the lottery? The purpose of the lottery, of course, is to randomly assign students, first year students, to one of the 12 houses. Factors such as legacy, status, religion, athletics, and siblings, older siblings that might have been in the college are not considered. These are things that we don't take into account, but we do make special accommodations for students with documented medical needs. And I just want to stress that these needs have to be documented and approved by DAO, or Disability Access Office, so that we can take them into account when we're running the lottery. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about important dates that are coming up and some that have already passed, as is the case with the first date. So as you can see, last Friday was the deadline to reach out to the DAO and request medical accommodations that we will consider when running the lottery. Not to say that if you didn't do that and if you were to reach out in the next few days that it wouldn't be considered. It's just that depending on your needs and how complex the needs are, we may not be able to guarantee that they will be. So I really do stress that this is really, really important thing to do. So please reach out to the DAO as soon as possible with any and all accommodation needs so that we can have them all approved before the lottery takes place so that you do not have to wait over the summer to see where you're going to be housed in the fall. It's really important. I also wanted to mention the dates that the lottery application will be open, and that would be Monday, February 26th at noon through Wednesday, the 28th, also at noon. So log in and make sure that you fill out your information, a little bit more about that to come. And also note on your calendar that Thursday, March 7th is Housing Day. So to talk a little bit about the lottery and the words that we use a lot, the first one is a blocking group. So what is a blocking group? It's a group of up to 8 students who enter the lottery together. And these 8 students or blocking group are guaranteed to be assigned to the same house. You do not have to be in a blocking group. You can just enter it by yourself as a blocking group of 1. That is certainly an option. I also want to point out that just because you're in the same blocking group, it doesn't mean that all of you will be living in the same suite. All it means is that you will be in the same house. As I listed here, typically, and I'm sure Amy will tell us a little bit more about it later, typically there are house lotteries for juniors and seniors. Those students select their suites, and then whatever spaces are left over, those are the spaces assigned to rising sophomores by the house administrator. So if you're in a blocking group of 8, the odds of having 8 beds in one suite are probably not great. So the house administrators could have to take your group and turn it into smaller groups to make sure that you all fit. So it's important to state that. There's also the opportunity or to join the Dudley community, but you should still enter the lottery, even if you are planning to move off campus or live in the co-op. So blocking 101, once you have your group, or if you decide to go in as a group of 1, what you'll need to do is to come up with somebody that is going to be a group leader and letter recipient. This person is going to log into the portal, and they're going to create a group name and password. And then that person is going to be responsible for sharing that information with the group. Once the group has that information, they too need to log into the portal and make sure that they fill out their application. It is not, again, the group leader's responsibility to check in everybody else. It's only to create the group password and then share it with the rest of the folks who then will need to go in and sign up. Make a note of that, make sure you follow through. And as I said before, there's the opportunity to enter as a blocking group of 1. So if you want to do that, you should enter the lottery, enter the application, excuse me, and make sure that you fill it out, and you would be the group leader and letter recipient. Some final notes that I wanted to share with you is that all first-year students who have completed the fall term must enter the lottery. Students who took a leave during their first semester, their fall semester, will return to the yard whenever they return to campus. But if you completed your first or fall semester, you must enter the lottery. Once again, just a reminder that group leaders should be creative and thoughtful when creating the group names, because there are quite a few people that are going to see those names. So you want to make sure that that you are, once again, thoughtful. If the housing office sees any names that are not appropriate, we will reach out to your group and let you know and ask you to change it. And if you choose not to do that, then the housing office does reserve the right to edit those group names. I also wanted to mention that all houses offer gender inclusive housing to the degree that it's that we're able to accommodate it, and depending on very much the architecture of the houses, so the spaces that are available, suites, so forth and so on. So we ask that students interested in gender inclusive housing should definitely reach out to their house administrator once sorted into a house. I wanted to share with you this video. This is actually from a few years ago, but I think it captures the essence of Housing Day. So I wanted you to just get a quick glimpse of what that morning will be like. So as you can tell, it is a very, very exciting day. I do hope that you enjoy it and you have a wonderful day. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can certainly email College Housing, or of course, since we're here today, you're certainly welcome to ask those questions now.
Awesome. Thanks, Karina. And that video was great. We didn't have the sound with the video, but just imagine the people screaming and yelling and just being really excited.
I'm
for
sorry.
finding out. No, it's just really exciting for people to find out their houses. So why don't we switch gears a little bit? We did have a question that came in that I think will lead us to our next person, Amy, to share a little bit about the process from the house administrator's perspective. So Amy, do you want to walk us through a little bit about from a house administrator perspective?
Sure. So I kind of sat down when I signed up for this and I talked to various students in Kirkland House. I was like, what do you want to know? What should you have known, or what do you feel like you should have known and before you came into the house? You know, you're a freshman, you're a first year. What are the questions that you had? And then I talked to house administrators and I was like, what do we need them to know? And I kind of made a list of do's and don'ts and quick little points. But just a little bit of information, sophomore housing placement usually doesn't start until June or July. Some houses start a little bit earlier, but if you're not hearing from your current house or your new house in May, don't worry. May, we're all bogged down. We're prepping out commencement and working with the seniors and all of those things. Your stuff starts in June and July and in the summer. Now, I'm not saying don't pay attention to your email from your new house administrators during April and May. We're still going to send you out some information, especially stuff about sophomore orientation. You're going to want to pay attention to those emails. I checked in. Every house, no matter which house you get assigned to, we'll be sending out, we send out a survey asking about housing preferences, and different houses ask different questions because every house has a little bit of a different architecture style or suite style or, rooming or housing style. So we've all fine-tuned our surveys to make the best matches with the architecture that we have. I do want to note, these are just preferences. We are limited to the housing that is left over after the juniors and seniors pick, as Karina explained. And again, reiterating, you don't have to live with your blocking group. You really want to focus instead on, who you want to share a space with. The sophomore housing tends to be a little tight. It's usually smaller spaces. So thinking about who you want to share a living space with. Think about the things that you like, things that are, you view as problematic, how often you clean, what time you go to bed. You're going to want to find people within your friend group that will ease the transition over to house living, make it a lot easier for you. That being said, all the houses, again, place sophomores without using the lottery pick system. I get a couple emails from students every year. Why don't we just do it like the juniors and seniors? And it's really because, you know, the housing and over the summer, even after juniors and seniors choose, it can be a little bit in flux. We've got students who are going abroad, students that are deciding to take a term off to go work on their startup. And there's a lot of kind of shifting that is going on. So we're trying to manage that plus the sophomore placements process. And it's just a little bit too much for us to be able to do effectively. And the system that we do usually works out for the best. So I'm gonna keep what you want. One other big thing to note, and I mentioned it a little bit a couple seconds ago, is when you're filling out your housing preferences, you know, the house administrators really try to keep your requested suite mates and roommates as a first priority. You know, that's something that you're going to want to think about because that's the number one thing that we're looking at. We want to make sure that you're set up for success in your house. You know, if you have suite mates and you have people that you know that you would like to live with, you've talked to them, you think it's going to work out, you know, that's what we care about the most. We do that, and the rest, the best analogy is Tetris. It's just filling in the gaps as we go. It can be a little confusing, but you know, we work really hard at trying to make sure that you guys get the best housing that is available and the best kind of configurations. Yes, we do split up groups sometimes, as Karina said. If you come in as a group of 8, you know, we could break it up, you know, in Kirkland, we can do, you know, 2 groups of 4, we can do a 5 and a 3. I had to break up, you know, a group of 7 into a 2, a 3, and something else with another student. So sometimes, like, we do the best that we can. I do want to make a note that, you know, can be keeping in communication with your house administrator, even especially after you've filled out your housing survey. That's a really good thing. You know, sometimes people feel like they're bothering us, but if it's an important thing that has to do with your housing, please let us know. You know, nobody wants to talk about, you know, the bad things that could happen. Sometimes friend groups go nuclear, especially over the summer. Let us know. Sometime, you know, we can try and work with it and try and figure it out. What we don't want to do is wait until after housing assignments are sent out, because at that point, the only adjustments that we're able to make are for DAO accommodations, as because of how close it is towards move-in when we send out those confirmations. The houses all send out housing assignments for rising sophomores on the same day. We all get together in a room and we decide what date this has to happen. Nobody gets them before. Every year I get an email, oh, well, this house did it before, gave it to me before. I'm like, no, I know that person, and that person just said that doesn't happen. So when we tell you it's a certain date, it's that exact same date for everybody else. Quick list of do's and don'ts. For a do, try not to stress too much or overthink things. There is no system to game for sophomore housing. You know, just focus on who you want to share space with, and the rest will fall into place. Being honest with your friends that you want to live with. You know, if you decide that you want to live with them, or you decide you want to live with somebody else, be honest with them, talk to them. You know, try not to make somebody else the bad guy, or you know, that's just going to make the situation a whole lot more awkward. Complete the survey and submit it on time. I send out multiple reminders. I know we all do. But it's one of the things, there's always a handful of people that don't submit the survey on time, and don't be that person. Coordinating your answers with the rooming group, with your rooming arrangements, and everybody to discuss ahead of time before you fill out the form. Really, really good, because we always get requests after somebody submits it. It's like, actually, I talked to my friends, we want to change all of these things, and I just have them fill out the form again. So before you submit, always check in with your suite group, or your intended suite groups, or your suite mates. Make sure you're committed to living in a variety of rooming arrangements with the students in your group. You know, you may come in thinking, okay, well, if I only put in with a suite mate for one other person, they're going to put me in a double. That's not true. there's a chance that you and one other person could be put in with another group of 2, because the only thing that I had available was a 4-person suite. So again, let it happen. We'll work through any problems that occur, but you know, don't get too caught up in what specific type of space that you think that you really want. Again, reiterating Karina, do work with the DAO in advance if you have a housing accommodation. The DAO is great. We are great partners with them. They let us know when accommodations are confirmed, so you don't even have to worry about it. Once you work with the DAO communicates with us, we discuss needs, and then you're set. And it's the easiest process ever, but you've got to work with them on like in advance. Last due, please read the emails your new house sends you over the summer. It's all really important information. Now 3 don'ts, and these are pretty big. Don't embellish or lie or do any of the scheming stuff to try and get something. I tell all of my students, especially when we're going through housing lottery for the juniors and the seniors, that the housing assignment process is as fair as you allow it to be. Everybody wants this process to be fair. You contribute to the fairness of that. 2, don't only focus on the type of suite you want. I mentioned it a little bit earlier before. I have always have students who are like, but we want a quad. We want a quad, and we want this, and we want this. And they give no thought to who they're going to be sharing their space with. Focus on the act of sharing space. And last, do not room with somebody that you are dating. If it goes bad, you could be stuck, and that's not good. Don't do that. No, you know, the houses are small. You'll be able to see each other whenever you want, but don't room with them. Yeah.
Awesome, Amy, that was great. Some good tidbits, some do's, don'ts, a lot of things about the process. Before we dive in to talk a little bit more or hear about actual experiences from folks, we have a couple of questions that have come in. I'm going to put my question glasses on. And one of them I just thought was interesting, just to answer the question about swing housing, because I don't know if everyone fully understands what that is. So someone asked if I'm particularly interested in living in overflow housing, which is called, you know, affectionately swing housing, that's more apartment style, so like Fairfax. Is there any advice you might give? And so we did get an answer from Brian that was about, you know, that it's being pretty limited. If you happen to be assigned to a house that has suites and swing housing, please be sure to indicate. But anything about that, because I think, Amy, you all have some, what we would consider swing housing.
Sure. You know, that's a really great question. I had a lot of students who reached out last summer wanting to have it for this coming year. I think it really does depend on the house and depends on what swing housing it is. You know, Kirkland is very lucky that we have such beautiful swing housing in the Prescotts. That being said, it makes it very desirable for the juniors, the rising juniors and the seniors. I think going into this year for the sophomores, I think we only had 2 beds available, and they weren't even together. It was like a bed in a suite with juniors and a bed in a suite with seniors, which I would not put sophomores in. So it depends. Kirkland House and likely in Elliott, who is right next door to us in 24 Prescott, would probably be a very, very low percentage of likelihood.
Yeah, so often juniors and seniors will be prioritized because they want those spaces. So that's really good. Another question about the blocking group. So if you form a blocking group with an odd number of people, how much of a chance is there that one of the group could be assigned a random roommate?
That's such a good question. Odd number I found, so in Kirkland, and I can answer for Kirkland, and I was previously the house administrator over at Leverett for a couple of years, so I can actually attest to both kinds of housing. I haven't found a different, like, there's no like more of odd number housing versus even number housing for suites. You know, I've had groups of 7 that were split into a 4 and a 3. And it was a nice little clean, like right next to each other, and it worked out really well. there's always a likelihood that somebody is going to get dropped into your group. But it's usually not something too scary. I've seen some of it ends up really, really well. And people who kind of were free agents, just kind of dropped into blocking groups and they're besties right now, which is adorable. So I've seen it actually turn out for good. So I don't think it's something to be afraid of.
Great. And then one more question that's really about the single. So, often a lot of people want singles. So would an individual within one blocking group be able to have a single room, or does blocking mean the members will have to house with at least one member of the blocking group? And I think that also is a question that maybe the flip of it, if you go in as a blocking group of one, does that mean that you are getting a single?
If you go in so Kirkland House is hard because Kirkland House doesn't have any standalone singles. We're 100% suites. So if you come in as a blocking group of one, you're going to get a suite mate assigned to you. Maybe one, maybe two, depending on the housing that's available. The likelihood of a rising sophomore getting a single in another house, I would say, is pretty, if they just by the act of blocking by themselves, from my experience, is pretty low. Be prepared for potentially being assigned a suite mate.
Great, thank you, Amy. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to hear from Ben. And actually, I think Ben and all the past, if you want to turn your cameras on, and then we can talk a little bit about, from your perspective, maybe one piece of advice that you would provide about the blocking or just the housing lottery process in general. So let's start with Ben.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. That was a great walkthrough of how it is on the ground. Right before we have a chance to talk about the experiences, I think one piece of advice I would give, this is very former HOCO chair of me, but your first housing day is probably going to be your most stressful or your least enjoyable housing day. But afterwards, you get 3 more housing days where you're already in a house and you're part of the storming committee and you get to go knock on first year's rooms and tell them, hopefully it's a house that you love and are excited to share with folks. So one piece of advice, or just a reality, is it's very normal to feel anxious about the housing process as a first year, have some nerves going into housing day. You don't really know what it's going to be like. And this first one is a big determinant for you of where you'll end up for the next 3 years. But I can say my sophomore housing day was way more fun, and my junior housing day was even more fun on top of that. So it only gets better, and that the anxiety and the nerves around it are totally normal. You're gonna, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna love where you end up, even if it's not the house that you were hoping for. But really go into the process with as open of a mind as you can. There are 12 houses. You have a 1 in 12 chance of getting any of them, and so falling in love with a house, might be fun in the meantime, but statistically, the odds are it's going to be random. So go into the process with an open mind. Know that housing day, there are many more housing days to come, and your future ones are a lot less stressful and a lot more exciting. So keep that context in mind.
What about you, Helen? What would you share about a piece of advice?
I would say that when you start thinking about your blocking groups and, whom you want to potentially be in a house with, don't let those groups be definitive when you're thinking about the long term and the rest of your experience at the college. I think a lot of students can go into the process thinking that because they're so accustomed to going to Annenberg and always seeing the same people, that using the same dining hall in the same house every single day will mean that those are the only people you're going to continue to exist with. But I found that I probably see people who live in different houses more often just because I'm intentionally making time to see them, whether that's, making a point of walking to and from class together or having a meal, whether that's in my own dining hall or their dining hall. And I ended up actually blocking with 2 of my first year roommates. And I find that I don't even see them as much as I thought I would because we just run on different schedules, even though we live in the same suite. So don't let that process feel like it's determining the rest of your college existence and the rest of your friendship existence at the college. You'll make a ton of friends in your house. You'll continue to make friends throughout your time here. So just be excited. And as Ben said, keep an open mind.
Hey, Matthew.
I've got 2 pieces of advice. The first is, I think this was echoed very nicely, but just a reminder that good friends and good roommates they can be in a good intersection, but not always. And so making sure that you have set those expectations about how you would like to live pretty clearly is very helpful, even though you might not be living with all of your roommates, all of your blockmates all together, just given the set of some houses. But I think the second piece of advice is I think people are quite worried. They're like, ooh, this house is the best house because of this, because of that, And I think those tend to be very surface level things. I would say I'm very happy to be at Elliot's house. I love the place, but each house really has something quite special and unique about it that you only really find out when you're in it. That could be anything from HOCO and the events that they hold, the tutors and the fellowship office hours or the STEM office hours, the dining hall itself, the dining hall staff, the events that the house puts on, whether that's from the faculty, deans, or the tutors. There's always something very special and unique about that. I mean, it could be silly. It could be like, oh, I really like the gym. I really like
So Matthew, I think we have,
the space, something very special and unique. And very hard to try to find those things.
awesome. So Matthew, I think we had a little, I don't know if you're at Elliott now, but we had a little, weird webinar stuff, but I think we got the gist of what you were saying. Let's switch over to Lulu.
Hi, everyone. I think one piece of advice that I would have is that kindness and compassion is really, really important in this process. You were talking about it earlier and Ben reminded me, but blocking can be very stressful for people. Personally, I find it very hard to get close to people, even within just one semester. I mean, that's basically how long a lot of freshmen have known their friends at this time. And so the process of blocking and forming those groups can be really stressful and nerve-wracking for some people. So in the process of getting together, forming those groups, just remember to treat people with kindness and respect. And one more thing I'd say and really, really emphasize is that you can't control what house you get into, you can't control what room you're going to get into, so it feels very up in the air. But you can control your mindset going into this process, and that makes all the difference.
That's great. Yeah, there's certain things you can control, but you can control how you approach the situation. So thinking a little bit about what it's like to live in the house and what that experience is. What are the fun things that happen? How is a house maybe different than living in the yard with all the first year students? Maybe we can start with our paths to talk a little bit about, what those experiences are like. So, anyone can jump in first.
I'd be happy to go if that's okay.
Yeah.
Something I've really enjoyed about being part of the Elliott community is the house committee. So that's what Ben and I have been referring to, HOCO. That's the acronym that's everyone uses throughout the houses. And each house will have their own house committee. It's fully run by students. There are chairs. We have like merch chairs and different events that we help coordinate throughout the year. It's a super fun small community to be part of within your house, and it's a really great way to get involved and kind of stay up to date on what's happening in the house. I've also been able to get to know a lot of upperclassmen throughout the house, as well as kind of tutors and faculty deans. Tutors are similar to proctors in the house community, so they're grad students or just other adults who reside within your house community and are there to support you throughout your time. And I remember I actually went to my first HOCO meeting, housing day, like you'll go to a dinner at the house you get into. And I went to my first HOCO meeting then, and I instantly fell in love with the community because everyone was so passionate about Elliott and about all the events that we help kind of coordinate. And now I'm lucky to be a co-chair for it this 2024 year. So definitely has been a really, really positive part of my experience.
I'll jump in next. I am a quadling. I live in Cabot House, and I know that's like really scary. Like some of your hearts may be like beating when you hear that someone got quadded. But I promise you, it's like actually really great living in the quad. My paths, when I was a freshman, two of them lived in Cabot House, and they always talked about how much they loved the community here. So I was actually really, really excited to be quadded. And I can tell you there is like, my phone is ringing. 1 second, sorry. If someone wants to jump in, they can.
I'll jump in. I will support Lulu in that. I mean, the quad is beautiful, and whenever I go and visit friends there, especially shout out the curry dining hall. But I think something that I quite enjoy about being in the house is being surrounded by so many people that you become friends with by virtue of being in the same place. Upperclassmen, people with different concentrations, and often that's through the house events. One of my favorite things that we did is one of the tutors ran a trip into Chinatown, or the historic Chinatown to Gyeongsang. So that's just a personal favorite. But really, I think being able to interact with so many different people in one place is quite special. But know that you will visit friends in other dining halls. I've eaten in all the dining halls, and so you're going to see everyone one way or another. But it's quite a special community that you effectively are given if you want to take that opportunity.
Thanks, Matthew. And sorry, I had to turn off the phone. But a few things that are really great about Cabot House. We are super close to Porter Square. It's like Harvard Square, but less crowded, better restaurants, a Target very close by. It's really nice. There's a cafe in Cabot House that's open until 1 a.m. So usually like a lot of people from around the quad go and like have a coffee drink or something late at night and hang out and do homework. And we also have the quad formal, which I've heard from many students is like one of the best formals that they've been to here. So just so many things to look forward to if you get quadded. And if you do, just say hi when you're here.
I don't think I've ever heard the term quadling before. I think that's cool. That's a good term for folks up there. Anything specific? I know that Karina shared the video of Housing Day, and just the excitement, everything happening in the yard. Anything maybe from maybe Ben, if you want to share anything about actual Housing Day as a proctor, what that looks like for you, what that looks like for the community. I know that I hear sometimes students like blocking groups will gather together the night before, and what does that process look like with the envelopes, like all of that stuff.
Yeah, I can kick it off a little bit. On Housing Day, all the upperclassmen will assemble in the yard and be chanting and cheering for quite a while. It's very raucous. Around 8:30, the leaders of the houses, usually the HOCO chairs, go and pick up the envelopes from inside University Hall and then distribute them to the upperclassmen. And on the letter, it just has the room number and the group leader names. And so a crowd of upperclassmen will storm your dorm with a letter to go deliver it to you. So your morning of, you'll probably want to wake up a little earlier than that and get to whoever is your host, whoever is your group leader, to be in their room to receive the news. It's really exciting. You'll hear people coming into the other rooms on your floor and your entryway. So definitely a lot of high energy. And then I'll save kind of the rest of the day for maybe one of the students who wants to share what happens after you get your letter and what else is available on that day.
I can chat a bit about it. So once you receive your letter, there will be a ton of energy. Everyone will be super excited. Then kind of the day will continue as normal for a bit. You may have morning classes or a section or something. And then around lunchtime, so pretty much from 11:30 to 2:30ish, all of the houses will line the walkway to Annenberg, and they'll have tables set up to give some merch out, to get to say hi to you, give you some more information about the events later that evening. And that usually looks like dinner hosted by your house. Sometimes the faculty deans or kind of the head tutors of the house will host you in their own home within the house building. And there'll probably be some events, maybe some more opportunities for free merch. And it's really just an opportunity for you to get to know your house community, to get to see the house for the first time. Sometimes HOCO chairs will lead tours throughout the house, things like that. But yeah, it's really just a time for you to get to know everyone in your community, see who else from your class has also been placed in your house, but also see, if you know any upperclassmen maybe from a class, and you can talk to them about their experience as well.
I just had one small thing to add, which is not at the moment, but in the week or so leading up to Housing Day, be prepared to watch all of the Housing Day videos from each of the houses. They are fantastic, incredible works of art. I distinctly remember last year going with a friend to the quad formal, and I think it was the Courier Housing Day song was actually played at the formal. And it was a certified banger. There was everybody singing along to it. And so houses put a lot of time and effort and pride into these Housing Day videos to make them quite exceptional and quite fun and funny. So I'd encourage you to watch all of them in the week leading up to it and start building that excitement. I mean, obviously there's lots of things to consider. There's make sure you don't miss the deadline. There's all of these things to make sure that you do. But at the end of the day, it's a celebration. It's a day of a lot of fun. And so, don't forget that is my advice.
Yes, that's a great plug for the Housing Day videos. I forgot about that. I always love seeing the talent that comes out of the houses. You're always like, who are these people? But it's really, really fun. And you can look back, if you go on YouTube, you could probably find some Housing Day videos for many, many years. So get psyched with that. So we're nearing the end. We did have one question that came in that I thought might be a good question for either Amy or Karina. Our preferences of cleanliness, our preferences such as cleanliness, waking, I gotta put my glasses on, waking, sleeping times, etc., considered when grouping people from different blocking groups, or is it based on space alone?
Yes. Which it's all things, but I sit down with the housing surveys, like when I have, empty space or trying to like block people together. I'm trying to make sure it's, that this is a successful match. So that's why I ask all of those questions in the survey. Everybody else asks those questions in the survey. I think my favorite question on the Kirkland survey is, what are your deal breakers? Like, is the one thing? And I get great answers on those that are actually really helpful. So yes, we take into all of it account, and only under extreme circumstances is it these two have to go together. I've actually never had to do something like that. I'm mentally prepared to do it, but we depend on the survey answers 99.9% of the time.
And typically in the survey, you also ask if people within blocking groups have roommate preferences too. So if you do have someone who you would like to live with in your group, you can have that option. And yeah.
Yes, we do. And, a lot of us also ask, is there anybody in the house that you don't want to live with? We ask that. It's a very specific question, and a lot of folks say, it's fine, whatever. But when it's answered, we honor that as well.
Yeah. Perfect. So as we close out our lovely webinar, I obviously want to thank everyone for being here today. Is there anything else that you would want to share, or one other piece of advice or information? And everyone doesn't need to go, but if people want to kind of to close out, we got a hand up. So thank you, Karina.
Thank you. I wanted to stress that this is one of those lotteries that you really can't lose. I mean, no matter which house you're assigned to, it's a home that is ready to welcome you, and you will see that excitement on Housing Day. It's a lot of people getting up very, very early in the morning, coming to the yard to truly welcome you into their community. And it's by far my favorite day of the year, because that's the only day that you see such an outpouring of house pride, right? I mean, we all have it, we've all seen it, but that day is just front and center. So think of it that way as you're walking through the yard. It's just no matter where you go, there are so many people just so excited to meet you and to welcome you into their house.
Awesome. Other folks?
I can hop in. I say this also as a path, but please don't forget that you still have your first year community supporting you for the remaining few months of your time at the college. I remember feeling very overwhelmed on housing day because I was so excited about my house community and getting placed in a house, but I, at the same time, was like, wait, my first year's not over. Starting to feel a little nostalgic, things like that. So don't forget that you are still, very much so welcome in the yard. That's your home right now, and just continue to experience and appreciate the kind of the life of the first year. Go to study breaks, please. PAFs always worry that all their first years are going to leave study breaks now that they have a house community, but come to study breaks, continue to chat with other members of your entryways and your proctor and everything like that, because being a first year is really a special time. So don't forget that. You'll have plenty of time in the house community, and it's really, really amazing, but also enjoy the rest of your first year.
That's great. Yes, the first year is not over just because, or after housing day, after spring break. The piece of information or advice that I would give is that, and I think we were clear about this throughout, but the housing lottery really is a housing assignments process. It's the thing that we do we have 12 different houses that we need to assign people to, and that really is the main crux of the process. I think sometimes people hone in a little too much on the blocking groups and friends and all of that stuff. And, the reality of it all is that you will be friends with people. We all are on the same campus. I know people think our campus can be vast, but unless you've been to like a UVA or a UMass or something, our campus is not that vast. So you will still be able to see people. You'll still be able to eat in dining hall. So really treat this as, it's basically a housing assignments process. All right, any other thoughts before we close? All right, perfect. So thank you again to our panelists for being here. Thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you for folks who are watching this, that it's recorded. I just want to share one other reminder that every proctor and PAF team, entryway team, are going to be hosting study breaks or entryway meetings to talk about the lottery process, and you should be going to those meetings. A lot of good information will be shared. And, honestly, for me, the best part of this process, or what I think happens that's so helpful, is hearing from people who've actually gone through the process. So make sure you connect with your entryway teams to participate. And if you have any questions beyond your proctor's path, you always have your resident dean and you have myself. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. All right. Thank you all.